Hey everybody, welcome back to Joe Wednesdays. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing all right. Um, what's new? As Mitch says, what's new? New for me right now. Stuff with me and Lydia is improving, luckily, and I think for me it was kind of like a mental turning point over the last, I don't know, like either this past weekend or the last week or so. I think I was hung up on the stuff that was going on between me and Lydia because it just seemed like I was losing all the work that I had put into her and my relationship. And like all the stuff I was trying to teach her and all the, the playtimes that we had and the routines that we had were all seeming to like kind of slip out of my fingers. And I feel like I was just like having to start over at zero all over again. And it was just like so frustrating. It made me so angry about it. And it's um, why would I want to bother doing it again, at that point. So it's like I was fighting off all those thoughts, and I think what I finally came down to is whether I'm right or not about having to start over from scratch. The question really just became, well, are you going to sit there and keep whining about it, or are you going to do something about it? So I think I finally got to a point where I was deciding that I was actually going to do something about it. So Ashley and I had been had started trading who does bath and who does bed in the same night, so that Lydia still had something that she was doing with mom every night, but then trying to kind of work me into her routine a little bit again. And I obviously the first couple of times we did it, she was fighting me a little bit, but she's fought me less and less as we've continued to try and do that stuff. So that's definitely improved. So that was encouraging. And then an idea that I had is that I think I've talked about the little magnetic toys that I have, that like they're little like ball bearings and little magnetic rods. I've kind of used that as kind of like a specific daddy play thing. So like if I want to get some like individual playtime with her, I'll get those out so that they're at least available, and then like we'll play with that together with like focused, like no distractions, no screens time. And I feel like between that and then again rotating me back into her routine, I think that's worked out really positively for her, and I think she's warming up to me again, so that's really encouraging. So hopefully things continue in that path. Um, let's see other things that are new, with work. I had my team is doing these presentations, and I mean our team lead is wanting us to do presentations just to kind of practice our public speaking if we were in a situation where we were with a client or had to present some information to the client, that were a little more practiced. So that's the goal of it. This round he's having us do like presentations on different projects that we've done, and I just volunteered to do first just to get it out of the way, and didn't have to worry about it for like the next month, because I mean my team's pretty huge, and if we're only it's gonna take a while to get through everybody, so I just volunteered to do it first just to be done with it. Um, but something that I was challenging myself to do individually on it was to do it unscripted. So like I'm figuring it's a work related thing. It's a project that I know. I shouldn't necessarily have to write out word for word what I want to say about it, and instead I should be able to kind of just give myself some bullet points and then talk off the cuff about what I had to do on the project. And I was honestly, what when I was practicing doing it the night before, I was finding myself getting really frustrated because I say and like all of the freaking time, as you can probably tell from a lot of these videos. So I don't like that about how I speak. But at the same time, it's like it's not necessarily that those things are bad to be in your speech, as long as it's not covering up the message you're trying to say. And I feel like I always teeter between like whether it's like just how I talk versus is it actually interrupting what I'm talking about. So yeah, so my challenge was to do it without a script and try to eliminate a lot of the likes that tend to sneak into my speech. So I think in the end I actually did really well today, so I'm pretty pleased with that. So yeah, so work is good, family is good. Um, so at this point, I think I'll kind of jump back to what I was trying to do with asking you guys questions and responding to your questions. Um, so one question that Ashley asked me about was what I feel or how I feel about remakes, and I felt like I would hold off on talking about that last time because that was probably going to be a rambling answer in and of itself because there like I wasn't sure whether she was talking about how I felt about like remakes of video games or remakes of movies. So there's kind of like I have answers for both of those things, but so yeah, so I'll go to like so games. I'm sure she's probably thinking specifically about like the Final Fantasy VII remake that recently came out. I'm generally not against remakes as long as they clarify what the remake is intended for. Like if it's just a straight one-to-one, like here's a game and we're taking the exact game and putting it on a new platform with like if they took Final Fantasy VI and put it on like PlayStation 4 or 5 with like 3D graphics and sounds and all that kind of stuff, I'd be all for it, and I'd probably be, I'd be like, give me my, just let me give me your money, um, and I'd probably just like play it and be completely happy, even if it's the exact same one for one, the same game. Um, but that being said, I mean, like, I'm obviously not against like design developers taking liberties on like what they want to add to the game and that kind of stuff. And I mean, like, specifically with the Final Fantasy VII remake. Spoiler alert! If you haven't played it or seen it, like they're clearly and deliberately going off script from what the original Final Fantasy VII was. So as long as that's kind of like shown as your intent, it doesn't bother me. Um, I think what would bother me about a remake is if it kind of breaks the original, like if there's a part of the story that like you're changing that absolutely breaks whatever you're trying to remake. I think that's where I kind of just go like because I mean honestly I don't have that strong of opinion on it, but when I think about like movies and like the remake wise, like I was thinking about like the live action Mulan that recently came out versus like the animated Mulan that we've now seen like 50 million times thanks to Lydia. Um, but like it just seemed like and admittedly I haven't seen the full live action movie, but like there was this one review movie or video that I saw on YouTube about it, and like they were talking about like Mulan's like actually like blessed with like martial art talent and stuff like that, and it just seemed like the essence of the Mulan story, at least the Disney story, was kind of about like self-realization and like coming into your own person even if it's against kind of like the social norms and stuff like that. And I mean like that's it's probably one of many themes, and so I mean I'm probably doing it a disservice, but it just seems like once you make her like so special that she's not even like among anybody on the planet, she's like this, like she can like jump in the air and kick a spear into a guy. It's like okay, like the sense of not feeling like you belong is like way left field now, instead of where Mulan was in the Disney version of it, and not feeling like she belonged because she wasn't like falling into a normal like feminine role. So like I said, like when you take concepts that and change them in your remake that kind of break the message of where you were trying to go, that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know. Because like the question also made me start thinking about like other movies, because like and they're not necessarily remakes, but like when you think about like book adaptations, like to go from a medium that's a book to like a film medium with the same story, like there's going to be some liberties that have to be taken in order to put it on film. um and like but like there are two movies that in my mind that I was comparing, and I was thinking of like the Hunger Games series versus like the Percy Jackson series. Those are two books that I've read, no, but two book series that I've read that have been tried to adapt into films. And I think like the Hunger Games I think was done really well, because like the books were all from first person Katniss perspective, the entire three books. And obviously, if you're going to a movie, you're gonna have to take some liberties as far as like doing enough world building to make it interesting for like an audience that may or may not have read the books and are only seeing the world through this movie. um but I think like so obviously they took a bunch of liberties as far as building the world, but I think they stayed true to like the Katniss character, and then all the characters like around her. Like it's particularly like the character they developed for President Snow, because it was only an implied like oppressive presence in the books that like Katniss like felt like he was doing this kind of stuff to her, to go to a movie where like you actually have a physical person doing these physical things. But I think like they really represented him well enough that it felt the same. So like they're not breaking the story down, or doing it a disservice going back and forth between the two different mediums. But contrasting that to something like the Percy Jackson series, and admittedly, I haven't seen the whole three movies that they made out of the books, but like, um, so there's a component in the story called mist, and it explains so many different things about like the world, and like why humans don't see the Greek and Roman monsters around, and like there's some characters who can see through the mist, and there's some people that can manipulate the mist, and like it's a cornerstone of the world that they build up so many different layers of lore off of. And then in the movie, they make it like, oh, this mist is a spray bottle so the Cyclops brother can hide his one eye, and that's it. And it's like you've completely taken out one of like the central components of your story, and you've made it like a little like CGI saving element, and that's all you're doing with it. And it's like the movies that I did see were just like they were so lacking because they were taking pretty significant aspects of the book and changing them, and it's just like you've completely broken the story that you're trying to tell now. So anyway, so that's all my ramblings about that. So I'll cut myself off there. um Something else interesting that came up today. So obviously, like today is the end of September. Tomorrow will be October. October's Halloween, all that kind of stuff. And there are a lot of people that like the horror genre stuff that comes out during those times. Um, there was an interesting video that one of Ashley's friends shared with us about, like kind of like a historical analysis of Japanese horror films. Because like the Ring and The Grudge are actually I guess Americanized adaptations of Japanese movies that came out before it. And the film the video the YouTube video that she shared was like really interesting, because like it shared like this like aspect of like this common element about among a lot of Japanese horror films is somehow tied in with like technology, like whether it's a monster coming out of a TV screen, or a monster that kills you when you see a video, or it's a computer virus that infects you to the point of stillness and that kind of stuff. Um it was kind of an interesting analysis of like how like horror and like current events, like the horror genre and like the art of creating like a horror film was kind of meeting current events in Japan, and how it was like playing out. It was really interesting. So if I can figure out how to like share stuff in the comments, or the doobly doo as some people call it on YouTube, I'll do that for you guys if you're interested in checking it out. But I definitely thought it was an interesting watch. So, but anyway, I'm going a little too long here, so I'm gonna cut myself off. And you guys have a good week, and we'll see you next time. Love you guys.